Wall Street veteran Bernard Madoff has been arrested and charged with running a $50 billion Ponzi scheme.
Congress wants to know what caused the Enron meltdown.
Now, while the collective rage currently is focused on WorldCom,
Tyco CEO Dennis Kozlowski was convicted of looting hundreds of millions of dollars.
This is one of the biggest fraud cases ever.
Their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Find out more on this week's episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
The medical field has always been a well-respected profession. When you tell someone that you're a doctor or a surgeon or a nurse, you're met with appreciation and gratitude. Working in the medical field is something that is highly regarded, as it should be. However, we often don't think of the dark side of medicine. Today, we explore one of the biggest fraud takedown in medical history. Multiple stories strung together in a web of lies and lining of pockets. Find out what happened on this week's episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
I feel like not every job in the medical field has so many laurels, right? It's like when your friend tells you that they're a proctologist. You're like, okay, so you stick fingers in people's butts all day.
They find colon cancer is on the rise, Kashan.
Like, whoop-de-doo. It's like, I do that for fun, okay?
I know. You always are looking for a finger to get sat on. You're like, sit on my finger.
No. Now you're painting me in a way. I'm not going around just saying that to people, okay? I meant it in a consensual, like we sat down and we both agreed.
No, you consensually want people to sit on your fingers, and I think that that's applaudable.
You know what? Yeah, sure. We agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome back to another episode of White Collars, Red Hands.
I'm Kashan. God, I hope no one I know listens to this.
And I'm Nina, and I'm going to send it to everyone you know. Welcome back. Another episode. This is the 4th episode of the 20th season of this podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I do want to preface this episode by saying that everything that is happening in today's episode is alleged. Okay? I don't need anybody coming after me. I'm just telling you what I found on the DOJ's website. Okay? In June of this year, 2025, in case you are listening in the future, the Department of Justice had their largest healthcare fraud takedown yet. 324 defendants were indicted. Some of them doctors, some of them nurses, and some of them were just plain old seasoned criminals. All right. So what was the loss? The intended loss was $14.6 billion. That is what they intended to steal from the government. However, the actual loss was $2.9 billion, which is still a lot of money, obviously. There were multiple facets to this crime. It was not just one big scheme. There was a bunch of small schemes together that were all part of this takedown. And we're going to be discussing each of those schemes. The schemes of this takedown included transnational criminal organizations, fraudulent wound care, prescription opioid trafficking, telemedicine and genetic testing fraud, and then the whole thing, there were a lot of fraudulent claims to Medicare.
Fraudulent wound care. Is the care fraudulent or is the wound fraudulent?
You're about to find out.
Oh, great.
All right. So the first story that we're going to talk about is what actually inspired me to research this episode in the first place, which was Operation Gold Rush. So when we hear of the gold rush, we often think of manifest destiny and the trek that settlers took in the 1800s to try their chance at striking for gold in the mountains of California. We think of people leaving their homes just for the slight chance of fortune, hoping that their luck would strike and they'd become rich without much effort, talent, or skill, trying to luck their way into riches. But this operation wasn't much far from that. Operation Gold Rush was an operation that was led by the FBI to uncover some of the largest amount of loss ever brought forward in a healthcare case. So what was going on? Allegedly, A network of foreign straw owners. Kishan, do you know what a foreign straw owner is?
Yeah, it's a foreign company that fronts like they own a company.
Doesn't have anything to do with straw or hay.
But they don't. Well, I thought it was like the straw man argument, which is where, you like fake. You put something fake and distracting it. I don't even know if that's the real definition of a straw man argument. I think I'm making all this up. Anyway, yeah, sure. Whatever I just said. We'll go with that.
You actually said nothing.
That's what I meant to say.
A foreign straw owner is a person who is not a U.S. citizen who is used to hold legal ownership of a property or a company or companies or assets on behalf of a hidden effective owner.
That's exactly what I said. Actually, that is kind of exactly what I said, though.
Not far off. I mean, it is fake, right? Like it's somebody in another country who is holding ownership of this company so that the real owner is not presented. As you can tell from the definition that I provided, this is for illegal purposes only and is used to hide who actually owns the company these companies are usually used to make laundering money easier. Yeah. But what happened was these foreign straw owners bought up dozens of medical supply companies that were in the United States. And once they bought up the companies, they submitted 10.6 billion in fraudulent claims to Medicare for urinary catheters.
That's a lot of urinary catheters.
A lot of urinary catheters.
Or maybe not.
And you say that. And you're right, because out of pure curiosity, I looked up how much a catheter costs. And you can buy a 24-pack of catheters on Amazon for $34. But depending on the distributor that you use, they typically run between $100 and $1,400 per month. However, I found out that the cheap ones are uncoated and they tend to be more painful to use. So depending on your pain tolerance, you might want to go with a higher quality catheter.
I think pain and catheters here is like the difference between night and later at night because...
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, there's no way I'm going to be happy about sticking a tube up my urethra and inflating a balloon inside of my bladder. I'm never going to be happy about that.
Anyways, these guys were billing Medicare like crazy for the catheters, and they were using people's identities to submit these claims, and obviously they were stolen identities. They stole identities of people across all 50 states and used their medical information to submit the claims. It is alleged that when the straw holders got their money, they transferred it into cryptocurrency and shell companies that were located abroad. With the insane amount of billing, it was going to eventually raise some red flags, obviously. After all, how many catheters does one person need? Actually, you usually change them about 6 times a day.
No, that sounds awful.
But red flags were definitely being raised, and the healthcare fraud unit's data analytics team decided to do some investigating and found suspicious activity. Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General and the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services luckily stopped most of the money from reaching the organization. They prevented $41 million from being sent to the organization. They actually, though, had scheduled $4.4 billion to be paid out. It did result in about $900 million in payouts from Medicare and supplemental insurance. Law enforcement has seized about $27 million, though. So
that's a pretty small portion of the payments that were made, though.
Yeah,
less than 10%.
Yeah, $900 million, you only got $27 million. That's not very much. However, quite a few people did get in trouble over this. There's 29 defendants who were charged in their roles in the organization, and they in total submitted $12 billion in fraudulent claims. The charges were announced in the Eastern District of New York, the Northern District of Illinois, the Central District of California, and the Middle District of Florida, and the District of New Jersey. Obviously, this is spread throughout the entire United States. You've got both of the coasts, the Midwest and the Southeast involved in this. But 4 of the defendants have been apprehended in Estonia, and 7 were arrested at the U.S. border near Mexico. They were trying to escape to Mexico to avoid arrest. Estonia was not the only country that played a role in this case. 2 other defendants were owners and executives of Pakistani marketing organizations, and they're connected in a different $703 million scheme. And the way that they operated was that they used AI to create fake recordings of Medicare beneficiaries giving their consent to receive these products. The beneficiaries' information was illegally sold to labs and medical equipment companies. And they used the claims to submit false claims to Medicare. Now, the last part of this is really messed up. Well, all of it's messed up. Everything I'm going to talk about today is messed up. But there was another foreign defendant who was based in Pakistan and the United Arab Emirates. And this individual owned a billing company and conspired to prey upon people who were seeking treatment for addiction. This defendant and the treatment center billed Arizona Medicaid for $650 million in services that were not administered. 41 substance abuse clinics were involved in the scheme, which is
super similar to Kenny Chapman.
Yeah, there's a couple things. I will say there's a couple things in this episode that reflect other episodes that we've talked about. Some of this stuff is unfortunately crossing over. When billing Medicaid, the services were either never provided in the first place, and if treatment was administered, it was so below standard that it failed to actually serve a treatment purpose. They also went as far as to make fake therapy notes for patients to make their treatment seem more legitimate. It is alleged that the owners of the treatment facility were getting illegal kickbacks in exchange for referrals of the homeless population and for people who are part of Native American reservations. In total, this defendant received at least $25 million from Medicaid and laundered the money and purchased a $2.9 million home, which is located in Dubai.
To be fair, a $2.9 million home in Dubai is just like, a rinky-dink shack.
But he still laundered the money. And he screwed people out of getting treatment, which is effed up. So, our next topic that was involved in this takedown. So we've actually talked about something similar to this in a previous episode. I'm going to see if you remember who it was, because I can't remember, where someone was lying about skin grafts and giving them to patients who didn't need them. Do you remember that?
That was that lady. She had some really mean nickname. Like she was not like the queen bitch, but it was something like that.
Number one bitch.
It was something like that where she's like, she was a terror. That's all I remember. I think it was also in Arizona, actually.
Dude, Arizona pops up. Arizona's shady, as you know.
There seems to be a lot of Medicare fraud there for some reason. But I don't know what is causing that. Have to look into that some more. I don't know.
Interesting. But anyway, we did cover an episode where someone was lying about skin grafts and giving them to patients who didn't need them, and it's going to be happening again. I don't know where they're getting all this skin. Well, I guess you get it from the person.
Yeah, or corpses.
Or corpses.
Dead people's skin. Those are the options.
Or pigs. Well, another facet of this takedown had nothing to do with pigs and had everything to do with the fraudulent use of wound allografts. And as always, elderly patients were targeted for this scheme because truthfully, they get hurt more often and their skin is more frail, so it is easy to lie about them needing a skin graft when they don't actually need one. Most of the patients were in hospice care, and it's said that many of the allografts were applied without coordinating with the patient's doctors, without proper treatment for infection, and they were applied to wounds that did not need the treatment in the first place, which I remember they talked about in the last episode where like it would be a very small minor thing with the skin, and they were just giving them a skin graft or giving them that mesh stuff to put over to imitate skin for a wound that would heal itself. And they were talking about how it was very similar. They would also lie about the size of the skin graft, saying that it was covering a much larger area than it actually was. Now, some defendants claimed that they were receiving millions in illegal kickbacks from the billing scheme. In total, $1.1 billion was fraudulently billed to Medicare and other benefit programs for skin grafts. Ira Denny, a nurse practitioner, applied over $2 million worth of skin grafts on their own. This person was not only giving skin grafts that were unnecessary, but they were also ineligible for reimbursement, which I didn't know a skin graft could be reimbursed, but apparently it can. Charges were filed in the District of Arizona and the District of Nevada. 7 people were involved in the scheme, 5 of them being medical professionals. So, the skin graft one was short. Next one is a little bit longer. Some of these were really short, but I wanted to include them all. The next one we are going to talk about is something that hits heavy for a lot of people, especially if you're listening in the United States. You know that as a country, we have an opioid addiction problem. In 2022, over 110,000 people died from an opioid-related overdose. Some parts of the country are hit harder than others, but it's a huge issue that faces our nation. I would say that from my own experience, and I think your own experience, it's typically poor areas that are hit the hardest by opioid addiction. But unfortunately,
yeah, I'd say so. That's because and I don't know if the metrics support this or whatever, but I think that it's I don't think there's a lot more drug use in poorer populations than richer populations, because rich people also use drugs. It's just that rich people can afford good drugs, the kind of drugs that don't kill you. It doesn't mean they can't get some fentanyl in there every now and again or whatever, but like most of the time, they pay good money.
No, 100%. And, when you're poor and you get to a point where you don't have any money and you just need to get a fix, you'll buy anything. And you're not really worried about where it came from, what's it cut with, anything like that. It seems, and in my experience, it seems like people who live in poverty, it's more apparent that this issue is going on.
Very fair. Yeah.
Yeah. With all the effort going towards helping people who are struggling with these addictions, it's even more frustrating when the ones who are supposed to be helping the situation are the ones who are actually fueling the situation. Now, we also had an episode where we were talking about the doctor who was they say like he was responsible for the fentanyl crisis a couple seasons ago. Do you remember his name?
No, I can't even remember the name of their company right now, because it was something like the chicken company, like Purdue, but not that. Which is a terrible like that. That's a nothing sentence, but that's all I have for you.
No, you're good. You're good. No. I couldn't remember his name, but it was a similar situation in this takedown. There were 74 defendants, 44 of whom were licensed medical professionals, and they were charged with 58 cases that were connected with illegal diversion of 15 million pills of prescription opioids. One pharmacy in Texas distributed 3 million opioid pills by themselves. These pills were given to street-level drug dealers who then gave the money back to the defendants. So they were getting these opioids into the pharmacy. They were taking those opioids, giving them to drug dealers who were then giving them money back. It is really, really frustrating that while the government is cracking down on our drug problems and has been so racist in its fight against the war on drugs, the very people that we are supposed to trust, doctors, pharmacists, nurse practitioners, are just out here fueling the fire. I honestly hope that every single one of those doctors gets their time behind bars, and that they make it, because they make an oath to protect and uphold people's health, and they are doing the exact opposite of that. It's really sick. It's just really sick to feed this for your own gain.
By the way, John Kapoor is the person with Insys Therapeutics that we covered who made fentanyl and then was really shady with it and led to the crisis. And Lexi Gerke is the skin graft person, and she was from Arizona. So
I don't know what it is about skin grafts in Arizona.
I would not be surprised if they all somehow talked. You know, maybe they're not exactly discussing this is what we're doing, but, you know, like word gets around that you can charge Medicare for these, and they kind of don't say anything, right? So more people do.
And so many things are getting billed to Medicare that a lot of this stuff obviously goes swept under the rug for years and years and years and years and years, because you're getting so many claims that you cannot sift through it all.
Yeah. And they're underfunded, under-supported by the government.
You've got staff members who are overworked. It's not until something is so blatantly fishy that then they go, well, wait a minute, now we're going to investigate. Mm-hmm. Because they haven't come out and said the years that this all like that these certain things had started. But you know for a fact that these things have been going on for several years before they get caught. So next thing we're going to talk about is telemedicine and genetic testing fraud. So this is going to be the last part of the takedown that I talk about today. But it has to do with telemedicine and genetic testing. Some of this genetic testing that they were talking about in here was not like regular genetic testing. It also had to do with COVID tests. But, I just want to say, if you ever think about having a baby, getting genetic testing done, if you're able to, is a very smart thing to do.
COVID testing isn't a way. Genetic testing.
Genetic testing, I found out during this episode, does not just mean your DNA.
Well, it means any nucleic acids.
Right.
Yeah.
But like when I'd heard of genetic testing in the past, it was just like, let's make sure we're not going to like have a baby with like a really rare disease that's uncurable.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I feel like most people get genetic testing to be like, God, I hope I can use slurs. You know, they're just like, what percent am I? Can I pull out a certificate of authentication that says like, I can say this?
You're like that guy on Love is Blind a couple seasons ago who was white as fuck and was like, oh, look, I'm 4% Nigerian in my DNA test, and I've been connecting with my Nigerian culture. And he said that to the woman he matched with. It's not a match, but like whatever, ended up being with, who was Black and Hispanic. He looked her in the eye and said that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, no, that was not hyperbole what I was saying. It's like people definitely...
Oh, I know it's not hyperbole. I know it actually happens. It's crazy.
They also have 23andMe for your dog now, so if you want to do that...
Me too.
Like, oh my God, Jeffrey is 25% Labrapoodle, and I'm like, I don't care. Why did you spend $150 on this? This is such rich white people shit to do. What are you doing?
Okay, telemedicine.
Which in Latin, of course, means medicine from afar.
I didn't know you were a linguist. Listen, before 2020, I had never heard of telemedicine. But we all know that telehealth exploded during the pandemic and gave people a more accessible way to see their doctors. I myself primarily use it now for therapy. This is a little sidebar. This is funny because I remember back when I was either junior high or high school, Joan Rivers was on the Celebrity Apprentice. And they had to do something to like promote Skype because like Skype was just now coming out and it was like this big thing. And she did a stand-up bit about video chat and Skype. And in that bit, she talked about how it was great because she was never going to have to go in person to the gynecologist ever again. And wow, that stuck in my brain for years and years to come.
Good luck getting a virtual pap smear, man.
But in this case, people were back at it again with the fraudulent claims. 49 defendants were charged this time for billing Medicare $1.1 billion in services that were not provided. The owner of a telemedicine and medical equipment company charged Medicare. They were also part of this, this is one person out of the 1.1 billion, charged Medicare for $46 million. This owner used deceptive marketing campaigns and then submitted those claims through Medicare for equipment and genetic tests. So all of these cases that I was talking about, this is all pretty breaking news. This all came out in June. So we're learning more and more about it. But this was just a rundown of all of these cases and what was all involved in this huge takedown. Obviously, cases like this are extremely upsetting because the people who we entrust with our lives are the very ones who are going behind our backs and screwing us over. And some of them obviously do not even care that people fall into addiction or receive services that they don't even need. And then I'm going to quote the Attorney General, Pamela Bondi. This record-setting healthcare fraud takedown delivers justice to criminal actors who prey upon our most vulnerable citizens and steal from hardworking American taxpayers. Make no mistake, this administration will not tolerate criminals who line their pockets with taxpayer dollars and while endangering the health and safety of our communities.
Yeah, coming from the woman who said that there's actually no Epstein files. Okay. Yeah, hey man, yeah, you get these people, don't get me wrong, but also
release the Epstein files.
Yeah, yeah, small ask. Small ask.
But people want the files. Well, the sickness spread farther than just the doctor's office today. Medical professionals went behind patients' backs and stripped them and the government for every penny that they could. While people are paying hand over fist for their premiums in medical care here in the United States, there is a whole group of people who could not care less about their actions and line their pockets with the money that was supposed to go to helping their patients. These people took an oath to help those who are in need, and instead they stabbed them in the back. We will see how all of these cases play out, and I hope that those who are accused of the crimes will get the justice that they deserve, and in the end, that the patients can find healing in whatever way they need it. Again, everything that I talked about in today's episode is alleged. So don't come at me. I'm just telling you what I was told, all right? And if you liked what you listened to here today, make sure you check us out on social media. We are on Facebook.com/WhiteCollarsRedHands. We are on X at WhiteCollarsPod. We are on Instagram at WhiteCollars_RedHands. We are on TikTok at WhiteCollarsRedHands. And we are on YouTube at, you guessed it, White Collars Red Hands. And if you want more ways to support us, you can also do that by leaving a review. You can do that on either Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Please give us 5 stars. Our life depends on it. Another way that you can support us for free is by telling a friend. Word of mouth is a great way to spread podcasts, and we would love for you to help us out with that. Let's see. An unfree way to support us is by going to our website and clicking on that, going to our website, WhiteCollarsRedHands.com. You click on that merch tab. It's going to take you over to a website called Dashery, and you are going to be able to order whatever you want with our logo. The holidays are coming up in a couple months, so why not get your planning done early and buy something from our website? And if you hear of a white collar crime that you think would be great for us to cover, please send it our way. We try to do a fan-submitted episode every single season, and we would love to do yours next. And I think that might be it.
Yeah, I think that's all I got. Let me check my notes. Yeah, that's it.
We got it. All right, well, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time on another episode of White Collars
Red Hands. Why did you pause? You slowed down waiting for me. That's not how it works. Okay.
It's funny now.